Okay, well, now that we've talked about all the big business, let's talk about the teeny tiny little business that is Tony Khan has hit the skids, hit the bricks, hit the wall. He's hit something. If we don't know when he comes out, he makes these long winded statements about how he's taken back over the creative. We don't know what's going on with how this program is put together. But if this is him, and it looks like it might be, because it's just the same thing for 2 hours every week. I think I said something earlier in the show, is the main event an 8-man or a 10-man? Is it for 250,000 or 500,000 play dollars? How many segments can we have multiple people run in and do shit after a 20-minute long match and then disfigure each other in some different fashion? It's the same show. He's just doing it over and over with names and people and matches and clutter. And I don't know how it's going to pull out of this. Do you? As a product, I'm not talking about their rights fees, or they were in Philly. I think they finished up there now, but they're in a closet again in front of 900 people. It looks like, Let's Make a Deal was the last show that shot in that fucking studio. It's a Tony, come out of the closet. And the show is the same every week. The guys do their dramatic soliloquies at each other, and then it's a mess of fighting and brawling and mayhem.
I think it's two different walls. I think it's the creative wall, and you could argue when Tony has hit that wall. But again, even if you're a big fan of AEW, the guy's been booking for 6 years now. And every time over the past 6 years he was asked about it, it's the greatest it's ever been. Everything's great. Here is some reasoning to justify why I think I deserve to be doing this, other than I own it. So I think there's that wall, but the other wall is the talent wall. Between injuries and the lack of free agents that matter. Technically Speedball was a free agent, and they got him. But there aren't any big free agents that you're like, man.
He should have been free.
There's no one out there that you're like, man, I hope they get them before WWE does, or I hope, whatever it is, there's no one. They've got who they've got. This is Ann Gunkel at the end. They've got who they got. And a lot of them are injured, and the show, I see how much some people really love it. And I don't get it. I don't get who's pushed. I don't want to just go off on another rant, but yeah, they've hit the wall. They've hit the wall.
Well, but Bryan Danielson on commentary may save him. What do you think? Will this be the turnaround? Bless him. He's been named as the new announce team member, replacing Tony Schiavone, which I don't have any argument with that, considering Tony's contributions to play-by-play over the last several years. But once he was introduced as set down, I'm so used to not listening to the announcing because either Sockface is screaming at me, or I'm so busy trying to write down who all these people are that are running into the ring and doing shit that I don't listen to the announcing. Did you catch any pearls of wisdom?
I thought he was okay. Not great, but not terrible, and certainly something that could be improved. I think the issue is more who he's teamed with. I think if you put him out there with, prime Jim Ross, it probably would have been one of those things where everyone was talking about his commentary the next day. You have to team him with the right people, and unfortunately, as long as Excalibur's the lead commentator on this show, the show's lacking.
Yeah.
Not to mention Taz just giggling at everything as it happens or whatever.
Well, but even Taz and Danielson, you've got two color guys, so there's no
Vince to tie them together.
There's two co-pilots. There's no pilot. Yeah, and the thing, everybody says, Sockface will really get it's 6 years now. He still sounds like he's screaming on VHS from the basement where they do their mail order tapes.
Even if you're a fan of his, I think the honest appraisal is that he's not a good voice for big moments. Whether it's what he says or how he stumbles over what he says or the inflection, whatever it is, he's not the right guy for that role.
He's still pretending to be the announcer that, like when they pretended to be the announcers on their PWG or whatever it was 25 years ago. He's imitating the announcers that he saw then and trying to get all the words right, and then plus trying to throw in all the Japanese names for everything. But nevertheless, Brian Danielson, good luck in that environment.
Hey, did you see this? One of the listeners posted this in the Cult of Cornette, I think. Brian Danielson had a quote about the AEW pay scale. Did you see this?
I did not.
He was doing an interview. Where was he doing it? With John Bernard, whoever that may be. AEW existing and being this challenger brand and being as successful as we've been has changed the landscape for wrestling for the wrestlers themselves. Wrestlers are being paid more now than ever from a sports rights perspective. So, for example, in most major sports in the United States, the players get anywhere between 40 to 50% of the revenue. WWE was paying their wrestlers nowhere close to that. Now keep in mind, they're still not paying anywhere close to that. But they do have to pay more, because if they don't, the talent is going to leave and go to AEW. AEW does pay that 40 to 50% of the revenue to the wrestlers.
Whoa!
You know, despite making much less money.
Oh, boy, howdy. So, I think he just told us that Tony Khan lost a lot more money than we thought he did for the first few years. Jesus H. Christ.
50% of the revenue, up to 50% of the revenue is paid to the wrestlers. I mean, for the wrestlers, that's incredible. Especially if you had the roster to really get your bang for your buck out of it. But that's incredible. Has anyone in wrestling ever paid that percentage of, if that is indeed true? And again, he's become somewhat of a mouthpiece publicly for AEW. Because,
well, yeah, and the thing is, these are the same things that Uncle Dave has written. So we wonder, did one tell the other which was the chicken, which was the egg? But it's the same story. But no, in the days of Strangler Lewis, when getting those two specific wrestlers was the chore, and it was like an old-time world championship boxing match where, yeah, then those two guys might get, 50 or 60% of the house or whatever, but it hasn't happened from a company per se over an entire talent roster in wrestling, because again, now with the TV rights being paid by networks, et cetera, things are different, but no territory, even no matter how successful in the territory days, could have paid 50% of the revenue to talent and still stayed in business, because that doesn't take into account the building rents, the advertising, the transportation, the commission costs. And most importantly, if you're shooting your own television, and most of the promoters paid for the production in those days. So that would have meant that you were spending 125% of your fucking revenue, which would not obviously have lasted very long. But now with these, again, with the WWE, 50% of their revenue would still be hundreds of millions of dollars, and it would be ridiculous to pay the fucking guys that much money, but they could still make money even if they did it.
And it's only ridiculous because it hasn't been done, because technically it's the guys generating that money. What's the current royalty rate for t-shirts?
At some point, if they make $1 billion a year and they paid out $500 million to the talent, you'd have a hard time making a case to me that many of the talent were worth 30 or 40 million bucks a piece per year, even in that environment. There's a lot of guys on the card. There's only a few that would be in that stratosphere. Anyway, back to the fucking surface of the ground, because boy, that's where this program was, and it's headed even further south. Did you notice that the crowd pans could show literally each individual person's face in the building?
I did not notice that, no.
When they did the crowd pans while the announcers were billboarding the show, they showed every son of a bitch individually that was in that building. And the first match was Adam Page against Josh Alexander. And Brian, did you see the open of this contest?
I did?
This was without doubt my favorite Adam Page segment, because this thing's is going to be the first 30 minutes of the show. My favorite one he's ever done, because I couldn't stop fucking laughing. Everything, this was snake bit. Everything that he could have done stupid or that went wrong or that could have been funny, it all happened here. The bell rang for the match and they locked up, and Page punched Josh Alexander 20 times. And Alexander not only didn't take a fucking bump, he sold all 20 of those punches by sinking to his ass on the bottom turnbuckle. And then he immediately stood up, kicked Page in the gut, and took over on him. The new world champion punched the fucking heel 20 times, and he sank to his ass on the turnbuckle. So it was more what you'd expect. I zoned out. He's their thing again where they feel like, oh, it'll get this guy over if he has a long match and does everything in the world and then gets beat. So after about 15 minutes, they did a long, contrived struggle on the apron of the ring. And then, Brian, this is how smart the new world champion is. Page gives him the dead eye on the apron. So drops him on his head on the apron, right? And Alexander rolls off to the floor. Page climbs up to the top rope, and 10 seconds after he gave the guy the dead eye on the apron, Alexander has to be back on his feet and standing there so that Page can backflip off the top rope on him onto the floor for no reason.
That's his thing. He has to do that.
Then don't give him a goddamn finish that should paralyze the fucking guy before he has to stand up and catch you. You fucking idiot. This is the guy that everybody says, oh, Page is great. Oh, he's the next generation. Oh my God, he's exceeded all the people that are saying that are the people in the locker room with him that are his friends. He's an idiot. So he gives the guy the dead eye on the apron. Guy rolls off. He's up 10 seconds later, get moonsaulted off the top onto the floor. Then Page rolls him in the ring. But then here comes Lance Archer, jumps up on the apron. And Page turns around and misses him with a punch, just whiffed him complete. As big as Archer's head is, couldn't hit it with his hand. And Archer bumped anyway. And now Page turns around, and there's Romero on the other end of the apron, and he runs at Page, and Page is supposed to backdrop Romero onto Archer. But when he backdropped Rocky just missed Archer and just landed right on his ribs on the floor at Archer's feet. Like, oh, shit.
Yeah,
he went down next to him.
That looked bad. He just took a
yes,
bump.
I'm sure it felt even worse. Now, within 30 seconds of being dead-eyed on the apron and moonsaulted off the top by the world champion, after he's dispatched these other two, Josh Alexander's standing up in the ring waiting on Page. And so they did some do-si-do shit with his foot, the kick and the block and the whatever. And then Page hit the buckshot 1, 2, 3. That was one of the worst finishes I've ever seen in my life. If they'd have done it right, it was stupid. If they still had executed all the moves properly without hurting anybody or exposing the business. Page looks like an idiot. And that was his shit, I'm sure. Anyway, thoughts on the match before I go on?
You know, Josh Alexander was a name I had heard a lot, but I didn't watch TNA, so I didn't really ever see him until he came into AEW, and I've never seen him win a match. He's in there with the world champion. Other guys can't get title shots. He's in there with the world champion. I've never seen him win a singles match. I've never seen him win a tag match. One of the issues with the Callis group is there are just guys in it that never win. Just all of a sudden, hey, you're part of this giant heel stable going nowhere. And then Adam Page, it's like the biggest divide, like the classic AEW divide, the way it used to be with like the people who worship Omega and the Bucks and the people who didn't. I think now it's like that with Adam Page. There are fans who really believe in him and think he does great promos and that he's a great fired up babyface. And you kind of said it, I had not thought of it and just saying it like this. You said it in a way that I think it kind of is. To his friends, he is being now who they wanted him to be. From the moment AEW opened up, their plan was, we're going to build eventually to Hangman being our guy. And what a build it was. And now that's where we are. And we get giant, long opening matches with guys who never win anything. That Rocky Romero spot.
Oh, boy. I hope he's all right. But
that was bad.
And by the way, you said you'd never seen Josh Alexander win, and that's true. What does his voice sound like?
I don't know.
There you go. But we know what Page sounds like, and he started talking as soon as this match was over. We're already 20 minutes deep in the fucking program, and now he's going to cut a promo. And I swear to God, I wrote this down. He said, because, you know, he makes up these grand sounding dramatic promos in his head and he delivers them in the same scowling, mean fashion. But he said, I did not spill a gallon of my blood to win the title just to have MJF change the stipulations of my matches by threatening immolation. And then he mispronounced immolation. And nobody got it because I don't think they knew what immolation was anyway. Crickets. They didn't even know it was the end of the fucking sentence. What did he say? Instead of saying he threatened to set Mark Briscoe on fire, he had to fucking deliver the goddamn Patty Chayefsky would have been proud of this dialogue.
No, he
in
wouldn't
his
have.
head.
No, he wouldn't have. He was a good writer. He knew how to write a screenplay.
In Adam Page's head, he would have. Immolation, by the way, the threatened immolation of Mark Briscoe. So then he saved it by stealing some of my material. He called Don Callis a phallus-headed dumbass. But when he did, he put so much venom into phallus-headed dumbass with all the words that he accidentally spit his gum out and bounced off his fucking chest, and a drool fucking oyster came out and stuck in his beard. And then he keeps talking, but all I can see is the drool bubble. I swear to God. And then they play the music. And here comes Kyle Felcher. And have they shaved his head again? Why did his head, his head looks 3 sizes smaller than it used to? Is it because he didn't have his big video game warrior, the bonnet and sundress on with the thing? Is his head always that small?
Maybe because you're seeing less neck because he's wearing suits now and he has his collars up.
But no, still his hair was shorter than ever. He's wearing librarian glasses. He's coming out wearing librarian glasses like he's a goddamn 14-year-old bookworm staying after school. And his head is shaved. He's got a peanut head. He was wearing a suit that at least he's trying to dress up. instead of these nitwits that come out in their jogging pants or whatever, but it looked like he was ready for his high school yearbook picture. And then they let him talk because they're trying to elevate him into a pay-per-view main event attraction. But when he talks, he sounds like a fucking Australian Alvin the Chipmunk. I swear to God, if it wasn't, you would think he's a 12-year-old with some kind of pituitary issue that's made him 6'3" and 200 whatever pounds. But facially and vocally, he's got a manager that did none of the talking for him, because the whole thing about this is that Paige did the whole rehearsed promo about how Kyle's got all this potential. You know what I see when I look at you? I see myself 6 years ago, dreaming and hoping. And I'm like, oh, holy shit. And but I wasn't ready then, and you're not ready now. And then Kyle comes back at him again, looking like a 12-year-old with chemotherapy. And he's screaming at Paige that I'm ready to be the world champion right now. But he'd be carded at the bar. So Paige agrees to give Kyle a title match at the big pay-per-view if Kyle will do it all himself and promise not to have the manager out there and the stooges out there and fight him. So basically, this was the equivalent of Dusty Rhodes being the world champion and telling Flair, okay, I tell you what, if you promise to leave JJ and Tully and Arn in the back, I'll believe you and I'll give you a title match.
You remind me so much of myself.
You remind me so much of myself. And, of course, old Kyle gave him his word, man on man. But they both, at the end of this thing, that weird thing that Paige does now, Kyle did it too, where they say the AEW Men's World Championship. Like somebody's going to confuse and think that Kyle's going to fight Mercedes Moon. But they also, I think it's some weird thing that Paige has because he's weird like that he wants to somehow verbally put the women's title on the level of the men's title, which is preposterous. Even if you're a fan of women's wrestling, the world title is the men's title. Sorry. And you're just being an idiot when you're the men's world champion and you're in the main event and you're trying to put anybody else's belt on a level of yours, much less to be sexually equal. Which I have a feeling that may be the only way Paige ever will be sexually equal to anybody. This was 30 minutes into the fucking program, Brian. 30 minutes. We had to watch Paige botch through a match with a guy that never wins anything and then have a fucking promo with a guy that sounds like he's fucking 12 on helium. And I said last week, Kyle has all the tools and he's got a lot of potential and he can do moves. But I said then that he should, get in the NXT training program to learn how to think about the business. And I've rethought that because, to be honest with you, there's 100 guys in NXT. Kyle needs an OVW. Kyle needs a wrestling school where they have people who know how to fucking think about the wrestling business at the top and like 30 guys. And where there's a structure and where everybody gets a chance in one market without being seen by all the prying eyes around the world. To fucking be on the bottom of the card, in the middle of the card, and then the top of the card, be a baby face and a heel. Personalized instruction because he's a special student. He's a lot better physically and athletically than almost anybody who wants to get in the wrestling business. He's learning nothing mentally, and he will never be a main event guy to match his physical potential unless somebody that knows what the fuck they're doing with wrestling books him, instructs him, takes him under their wing. So the longer he is here, the more he's going to think that any of this shit is the right way to do it. And that's what's going to hamper him from ever reaching his potential. I yield the floor back to my colleague.
You know, he's still one of the younger guys there. And when you think of the younger guys there, or at least the guys that look young, he look-wise, physically, is the most ready for a WWE system. He noticeably got into much better shape since he signed full-time with AEW. They got him with Callis. The Callis group, in my eyes, is just a complete joke you can't take seriously. He shaved his head in the ring. He had the feud with Ospreay, his former friend. And then they had those crazy matches. You know, he stands out in AEW because he's tall and he's in shape and he could do stuff. But he's doing his own stuff, obviously, because producers don't matter over there. But also, there's no one else that kind of looks like that. You know, Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta, Jack Perry. Think of the younger guys or the guys who look young, who they've signed and put a lot of time into, who still just don't look like TV wrestlers. It's a very cosmetic injury. It's a very cosmetic industry, is what I meant to say. Kyle has the look, but you know, right now he's working the indies. That's what you got to look. AEW is like you're working the indies for the next 3 years, and then I'm sure he'll do all the things he has to do.
And the thing is, he's got more than the look. He's able to pick people up and put them down and move himself around safely and all these things. He just can't put the things together because nobody's taught him how to think about it. And it's the video game style of wrestling that, you know, people get bored with. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. It's hard to keep booking it because how do you ever do anything different? And it's hard to keep watching it because how do they ever do anything different? Anyway, moving on to do something different. What?
Jim,
what are you going to say?
I paused the TV in the background, the news I had on CNN, and there's some breaking news here I thought I should break in with.
Oh, boy.
Nurse does CPR to revive drunk raccoon in Kentucky. This is national news. Now, again, it's towards the end of the hour when they get the wacky news stories. And have you seen this story locally? Is this a big deal?
No, I have not. But what do you know the town in Kentucky?
This woman is doing CPR on this raccoon.
It had to be the eastern part of the state. The raccoon got into a still.
Letcher County.
There you go.
Where's that?
It's in the eastern part of the state. It's down south and a little bit to the east. I can't give you exact mileage from here, but
yeah, she's doing chest compressions, and she just tried to breathe air into its mouth. Does it come back to life? I guess
did it make it? Good.
Otherwise, this would be a really depressing
because you know that's been a thing going on. The raccoons don't want to drink. It's forced on them when the stills are out in their neck of the woods.
Is this something like not that you know, but like this has happened regularly? Like animals get drunk and pass out in Kentucky?
Well, if they find a still in the woods, it's not just limited to Kentucky, but that sort of thing does happen here on a more regular basis then. But yeah, boy, think about a drunk bear. Think what might happen there. He might be writing the next episode of AEW Dynamite. Can you explain to me, Brian?
No.
Why that they did the whole thing to relieve the Hardley boys of their executive vice presidency-ship in what was supposed to be this big violence-filled match, and then now they're just, why are they showing up to get this ridiculous guaranteed money, whether they draw or not, or work or not, that they get, to just be made fun of in unfunny comedy that it's poorly delivered and not witty in any fashion, and nobody in catering wants to eat with them. It's like a fucking teen comedy in the 80s from John Hughes. And they're giving them funny chyrons with their real names, making fun of them. What will this lead to? How could this possibly in any way enhance this program? It's just these two witless nitwits jacking off. And they put up with it. And then they're sitting in catering by themselves, and Dick the Boozer comes in and gives them a pep talk. If you come to win tonight, he's going to give them the $500,000 because Moxley's not in it for the money. That's not his motivation. He's supposedly got this club of trained assassins that he's running, but he needs to appeal to these two 40-year-old fucking high school dropouts to come to win, and he'll give them all the $500,000. Who is writing this shit? Who's supposed to believe this? Why would this be good if you know it's a work? If this was a pilot for a TV show, it wouldn't make the air.
Yeah, it's like when Vern Gagne did those like $100,000 battle royals in the AWA at the end. No, they're in Philadelphia and they're doing this thing where they have $500,000 on the line for this match that just popped up out of nowhere. And Moxley, it's interesting, babyface or heel, it doesn't matter. You will give a pep talk to your opponent or your friend, whoever it is. I've seen the heels and the babyfaces give pep talks to people. And Moxley did it here. The Bucks, I remind you, beat up Tony Khan with Jack Perry. The AEW fans said, it all works out. You guys are wrong. It all makes sense. How did that work out? And look at where we are today. They mean nothing. And they're doing bad comedy.
Tony Khan did that because he wanted to have fun taking that bump and wearing that neck brace. And they knew it, and that's how they got that in there.
Imagine if they had done a Tony Khan gets beat up angle, knowing that he's crazy enough to just wear that neck brace everywhere and play into it. If some real heel had done it and then built upon it. But instead, we're back here and the Bucks doing their bad comedy, which has been rejected categorically by a national television audience.
Well, speaking of being rejected categorically, they had a girls' tag team match with Alex Windsor and Riho against Mercedes Moon, and Emi Sakura is back. Is she the house mother, the mama-san? For
Riho's escort. That's what I was thinking. That's
Riho's escort. Yeah, you can't let her out on the street alone. A strong wind would blow her away.
Maybe I should say chaperone, not escort.
Well, it just depends now on your way of looking at things. How can they do this with a straight face? They're in a barn in a bad neighborhood in Philadelphia in front of 900 people at the same point in time where their opposition is in these major goddamn stadiums and internationally. And then they bring in Alex Windsor. Ain't bad. She's not tiny. She looks like she can execute some moves, and put her in with two fucking outlaw niche fetish objects from Japan and the biggest egomaniac on the block. But again, I said the same thing about Riho earlier. She's not a legitimate professional wrestler. It's a parody. And Emi Sakura is the same thing. Margaret Cho in a goddamn wrestling outfit. And they put this on national TV and expect people to take this company seriously. Moving on. What is the deal with FTR and trying to make the fans back down? Did you see this thing where they came out and...
It's all I focus on now. As soon as they came out, I'm like, are they going to dare do it again after it has not gone right one time, leading the fans blowing kisses at them, taking drinks right in front of them, or sips of their drink? They would certainly not do it again. And they can't.
They turned it into an angle. They turned it into an angle that nobody is afraid of them. It's just like fucking. The angle is we can't scare anybody. We intimidate no one. We move no one. We strike fear in the hearts of no one. They come out with Stokely, and Stokely does a little bit of a promo as they come down the aisle there on the match in Toronto. And he knocked Philly a little bit. And then Dax started doing the promo, and the fans were not listening to him in the way that we've talked about, where they've just said, we're just going to boo over all the shit we don't care about. And it's fun to boo over the heel and shut up. But now he's challenging the people to fight. Any of you, I'll fight any of you. And he goes out and starts getting up into people's faces on the front row by the rail, and they're laughing at him and not backing up. And he's cutting promos at him, trying to get nose to nose, and instigates whatever. And at one point, well, first he tried to make one fucking guy flinch and got bleeped by the camera. The handheld was right up on him, so you could hear on the microphone on the camera what they were saying, and there was something that was bleeped. But he tried to make the guy flinch, and the guy didn't even spill his drink. He's just, and the people next to it are laughing. It's sad and embarrassing that somebody had the idea that they should be doing this. So then they go further back and they got another guy's face. And I'm thinking, not only is the camera shot so good on this, but this guy isn't backing down. He's got to be a plant. They're going to pull him over the rail. Something's going to happen because they got a great shot of it. And this guy's right up in Dax's face. Well, it turns around, I guess the guy wasn't a plant. He just didn't give a shit for Dax the pussy because the fan didn't back up an inch, and Dax turns around and shoves the cameraman down. Don't you dare get a good shot of this guy not scared of me, motherfucker. What else reason was he turns around, bumps into the cameraman that's there, shoves him down. And then the camera shot, they keep taking it from the truck. The camera's laying sideways on the ground, and Cash gets on the guy and starts beating him up. And here comes referees and security. And I'm like, what is this? But was the story that Dax got mad because when he turned around, he bumped into the camera and then beat the guy up, or he just got mad because the fan wouldn't back up from him, so he beat up the cameraman? What is the story here?
I don't know what the story. Why are they leaning into this? Why are they leaning into the fans? They should have just stopped with the interaction with the fans and gone to their promo or gone to their matches, but they keep getting in fans' faces, and fans...
It's like if he came and whipped his dick out and said, I'll measure my dick against every fan in the building, and every fan in the building's dick was bigger than his. Would that get you over?
It's an interesting example, but no. I mean, you said it best at the beginning. You've never seen a heel team get over where the gimmick is that no one's afraid of them.
Yeah, right. And folks, we're going to have the Masked Infernos on later on and find out who else doesn't give a shit whether they try to intimidate them or not.
So on the road to FTR versus Cope and Christian, last week we got FTR having some kind of side feud with some guy from Ring of Honor.
Challenging job guy.
Yeah, I don't know what that was or where it went. And then this week we got them in a feud with the fan. Wasn't exactly Hillbilly Jim sitting in the crowd, but just some fan at the barricade. And the cameraman, I guess, if you want to make it a tag team situation. You got the cameraman and the fan. Takes away the focus from the match that matters.
And okay, if Edge and Christian weren't there, maybe do something else. I don't know. Ricochet faced Shelton Benjamin. And they also agreed earlier. I forgot about this. They agreed to leave the others in the back so that Shelton doesn't have MVP and Lashley, and Ricochet doesn't have who's he, what's he, and what's his name. And they legitimately had Shelton Benjamin go 12 minutes with Ricochet, and he tried to figure out ways not to beat this little dwarf and make it somehow plausible that he could last 12 minutes. But finally, again, Brian, how stupid can a babyface be when he believes the heel says, "Oh yeah, I won't cheat"? This is fucking wrestling. So, so finally, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, Brian, but Ricochet went to stab Shelton Benjamin in the face with scissors, but Shelton blocked it. And the referee, which I think it was the Bryce Rimsberg, but I don't, in case I'm not sure, I don't want to call his name, but because I don't want to embarrass him if it wasn't, but he stood there with his slack-jawed mouth open like a raging dumb fuck while this guy is holding this other guy's fucking arms above his face as he's trying to stab him in the face with scissors and doesn't call for the bell. And Shelton clotheslines Ricochet, gets the scissors away, and then the referee is standing there waving his arm, saying, "No, throw those scissors out." It's been a disqualification in wrestling since the dawn of fucking time. If the referee sees you with a foreign object, intent is as good as a goddamn accomplishment, you're disqualified. Has it not?
Always.
Besides the insanity of all the rest of this?
Of course.
Okay, so he said, "Get rid of the scissors now." Tony Khan, come out of the closet. And I wrote, what the fuck is the matter with these people? So Shelton, being now a babyface for the last week and a half, is too honorable and breaks the scissors, and the fans boo him. And then Ricochet's stooges come out, and one of them draws the referee, and the other one turns around and headbutts Shelton, and Ricochet rolls him up 1, 2, 3. And then here comes MVP and Lashley. And they get in a fight with the Stooges, and it not only was an even fight, but it was a bad fight. The big new guys can't give any ground because they ain't over. They don't have a lick of heat, but the Hurts can't give any ground after their guy just got beat, so just blah. This doesn't do the Hurt Syndicate any good at all, as I said at the top of this statement or earlier in the program. And Jesus H. Christ on a cracker. What in the world? It's come to this.
I can't explain anything that has happened with the Hurt Syndicate since, we were waiting for all the stuff with MJF to come together, and it kind of didn't, and they just ended it, but nothing has made sense with anything around them. And there's nothing going on, and now they're feuding with Ricochet, who doesn't matter in AEW. They had a chance, and he's cooled off completely, and his stable of guys that we've seen every now and then on this show lose, but now they're with Ricochet. I don't know. Weren't they managed by Nana? They were in Nana's stable, weren't they, when he first started managing Swerve?
I think they were. Well, they ain't no more. Is Nana hurt now, too, because Swerve is hurt? Shouldn't Nana come back and try to find somebody to take Swerve's place? Nana's probably just sitting home thinking, Jesus Christ, he's just going to send me a check for the next 6 months or whatever. I'm not saying a goddamn word.
There's a guy dancing up a storm in Queens right now, and he's on Tony Khan's dime.
Actually, I think he's on Tony Khan's dollar at this point. All right. It's time that we referenced just for a couple of minutes, because seriously, and when we give the ratings, I don't know what the quarters look like, but this either people couldn't turn away with it much in the, often referred to and famous two dogs fucking on a side of the road analogy, or they turned away from it in droves because it was the most ridiculous, low class, low rent, outlaw, mud show, amateur hour, horse shit. Or I would expect it from Saturday Night Live in the 70s, when Saturday Night Live was somewhat funny. But for an actual program that's allegedly a pro wrestling promotion putting on a pro wrestling program, this was fucking embarrassing. Nobody has any goddamn integrity over there that just we will stoop to any lengths. We'll go to any fucking sideshow lengths. We will get down in the mud and grovel with the worst tasting, low class trailer park bullshit in the world. What did they call it was a garbage weapons match of some kind because it's Philly in a toilet with Tony Storm and Old Blue Sky. What did they call it?
It may have just been a Philadelphia street fight or something. I'm not sure. Well, Sky Blue's looking good, isn't she?
Oh, Christ.
On a cracker.
Well, I mean, here the only problem is it would be a step up for either one of these girls to do goddamn, German torture porn at this point. That would be somewhat something they could point to with pride on their resume after being involved in this thing. I don't know whether it's more an indictment of the stupid indie-minded people behind this program or of the small group of stupid indie-minded fans that like this kind of shit that they even do it. But it's not even violent in a simulated violence way where these people are actively mad at each other and wanting to tear each other limb from limb, and it can't be contained in the rules of sport, and it must be a fight to the finish and bring what you want and do what you want. It's a goddamn clown show of unfunny comedy spots where they jackass each other and staple each other's fucking tongues. Or in this case, their tits, their ass, and their pussy. And here's another thing. In 1989, TBS sent us a fucking memo, which I still have a copy of, madder than a goddamn pig stuck under a gate because Terry Funk put a plastic bag over Ric Flair's head. And the same network allows one girl to take a staple gun and staple another girl's nipples, buttocks, and labia.
I think the buttocks was acceptable, but they really crossed the line once they got to the titties.
But where do you lie on the labia?
That was after that. They already crossed the line. The line had been crossed. It wasn't the first time in that building.
Did they come back or did they further exceed the line?
I don't know if anyone came with this, but let's get back to the match here.
All right. Well, the point is there's tables and chairs and kendo sticks and the staple gun. And that made Twitter, of course, with a lot of people going, what the fuck is this? It just looks it looks like jackass. Like just a bunch of fucking friends get together to clown each other. There's no professionalism to this whatsoever. It makes the Harlem Globetrotters look like NCAA ball. And then they had a table with mouse traps on it with Swiss cheese in it. So the Swiss cheese were in the mouse traps that were covering the table. And they also used an allegedly electric bug zapper paddle. Actually, I've seen some catalogs with electric paddles before, and they didn't look that cheap. But it's ridiculous. And this wrestling promotion is collapsing in front of our eyes right when they need to be stepping up, and they're doing this kind of shit. And then 8 different blonde girls and Jamie Hayter jumped in at the end of it and beat each other up. What purpose did this serve? Why would this make anybody want to watch your TV show? Why would it endear any sponsors to you? How does it get anybody over when, again, Toni Storm is the closest thing they've got to a star on their female roster, and she's in garbage matches in a fucking toilet with underneath talent. And it makes the business not only look silly, but local, if it's possible, even more low class than it already is. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. I'm just astonished.
So you liked it.
Oh, loved it.
Why did they have a street fight? What led up to this? Did I miss that?
Well, nothing, because they're in Philadelphia. So they got to have the hardcore match in the fucking Cathedral of Hardcore. You know, Madison Square Garden is noted for the Ali Frazier confrontation. Or, you know, the fucking Forum is noted for a great Lakers game. And the ECW Arena in Philadelphia is noted where a fucking drunk used to bust himself open with a beer can. Good God.
Jamie Hayter's still rocking the I'm a waitress at the Pancake Cottage, just struggling to pay my bills look.
Well, as a matter of fact, you know, Mel, when Flo left, they should have brought Jamie Hayter in instead of that other one they replaced her with in the final season.
You see, she just died? Polly Holiday?
Polly Holiday died? Yeah. I didn't know she was sick.
Well, she's gone.
She was a hot little piece of you know what back at one time, boy. Back in the early 60s.
Flo? Oh, good.
Back in the early 60s, boy, with those poodle skirts. And those goddamn cashmere sweaters. Hoo.
All right. This is taking
at
a
the
turn,
sock hop.
The sock. All right. Well, let's get away from the Bobby Sockers. And
my sock got crusty. So then the main event was here, a 10-man tag team match for $500,000. But Dick the Boozer, as generous as he is, he's not motivated by money because he drives around in a pickup truck with a bunch of other hairy, unwashed men. He's going to give it to the Buckaroos if they win. It's the Buckaroos and Claudio and Useless and Boozer against poor old Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, Shapoopy, Bandito, and Burger King. And Brian, do you know the first thing that I wrote down?
No, I was trying to write down the people in the match and you threw me off with your nicknames. What did you write down?
I wrote down I wouldn't watch this if they were going to give me the $500,000. And I wouldn't watch it if they were going to finish the match with a human sacrifice, which I was not ruling out at the time. But this, I don't know how long the overrun was, but this was another, they're just going to send 10 guys out there to do some shit for no purpose for 15 or 20 minutes, and then they're going to have a fight afterwards, regardless of what the goddamn finish is. Now, how close did I get to what actually happened with that prediction there?
Well, there was a big turn at the end. You didn't see that? That's really the big story.
No, I didn't watch this whole goddamn thing. Because why? Because it's the same thing every week. That they turn somebody?
They turn someone to the dark side or the Moxley side.
Who turned?
Daniel Garcia. So he will now be finally united with Wheeler Yuta, the two young'uns that were brought in around the same point in time. And one went with Jericho, one went with Moxley. Now they'll be together finally under one umbrella.
Together wherever we go. Danny Garcia's a heel now. Well, now I'm ashamed I missed that. My goodness, this is going to transform the whole company. They don't know when to quit with these fucking guys, do they? Can he possibly be any more of a boring heel than he was a boring, bland, vanilla fucking babyface?
And again, it's another one of the things where the babyface is down on his luck, and here comes the great motivator, Moxley the heel, to pick him up and get him fixed up.
You know, you said it earlier. Kyle has put on size. He's made some very strange wardrobe choices, but at least he's gotten new gear. Again, the hairstyle, what the fuck, but he's trying to do something. The glasses, I don't know. He's trying to do something. But he has put work in to transform his body. Yuta and Garcia are the same blah-looking fucking parking attendants that they were when they came in here 3 or 4 years ago. They do the same shit in the matches, and they look exactly the same. Yuta's grown some hair, so he looks even more unkempt. He looks like a goddamn bloated string of spaghetti that got stuck in the bottom of the fucking pot after everybody had their fill. And fucking Garcia, could you x-ray him and find a muscle or a tendon? Is there any delineation like he's ever done a fucking sit-up? Has he ever tried to get any kind of goddamn outfit to make himself look like something? And he's got that, I don't know, we debated one time, is he from Virginia? Like that coastal Virginia kind of weird accent. But he just sounds like a goddamn schmo. And they won't back off. And meanwhile, when's the last time you heard Hobbs speak? Was he in that Twilight Zone episode where he won the bet for $100,000 that he wouldn't speak for a year, but he had his vocal cords cut?
Yeah, he hasn't really spoken. I mean, the Ops haven't had a lot of promo time in general, but usually Samoa Joe does the talking.
Well, why is it an op? What does Shapoopy have to do with Powerhouse Hobbs, and why is Samoa Joe saddled with either one of them? Jesus H. Christ. You can't make groups that are completely disjointed. You can't get them over, and you can't... If there's a group, whether it be DX or the Four Horsemen or the goddamn Bloodline or whatever, they have common threads running through them, even if they're disparate personalities. This is a goddamn collection of people that Tony Khan wanted to make 6-man tag team champions, and that's where their connection ends. Nobody knows what they sound like. Joe, from when he used to talk. Hobbs, I bet people can't remember ever hearing him talk. And Shapoopy was talking through his fucking phone. If you don't know what a guy's voice sounds like, unless he's got a manager and he's eating the fucking announcer's tie while the manager's doing all the talking, if you don't know what a guy's voice sounds like, he ain't a main event fucking guy. Sorry. Anyway, welcome to the club, Danny Garcia. You dastardly heel, you.
Well, there it is, AEW Dynamite. For what were you going to say? I apologize for cutting you off.
I was just going to say, and I was wondering, before we talk about the ratings, I was going to give you a chance to just jump in here. If you've got some more exciting programming on the Arcadian Vanguard Network this week than they did on AEW.
Oh, you hear that noise. That means something's about to happen. Another fine week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. Of course, this week, like every week, the wrestling news each and every day there for you. The morning wrestling newscast. No paywall, no clickbait, just the wrestling news. No opinion, just the wrestling news. I said it. TheWrestlingNews.com.
Yes.
Or wherever you find
it's
your
just
favorite
that.
podcast.
No more, no less.
Want to mention Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon. This week's guest, Sean Delaney, talking about Evansville, Indiana, and so much more.
There he is. My man, Sean Delaney, going to tell some stories about Evil.
Hear it at SUAWpod.com or look for Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon wherever you find your favorite podcast. By the way, his book just arrived here. I know Jim just got it. Of course, we're talking about Irresistible Force, the Gorilla Monsoon biography. What a fine
And it looks
book.
even better. Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful book.
Yeah.
I read it, but I read a manuscript. This is an actual book, and it's even better.
Well, once again, get that at Amazon or wherever you get your favorite books. Of course, Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, a look at 1985, 40 years ago in the WWF, a packed month, September 1985. McAdamPod.com or Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, wherever you find your favorite podcast, and of course the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Go through the archive, 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts, The Mothership.
So I can sneak that one in there. All right, well, the question is, how many people watched this fiasco this week, and they were having to rebound from, I believe last week was the record low ever in the normal time slot. So how's the bounce? Was it like a rubber biscuit? Did it bounce back?
Well, we shall find out. AEW Dynamite on TBS, Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. from 8 to 10:06 p.m. on average, watched by 584,000 viewers.
Ooh, well, they bounced back up from 4 something back into the record lows that they have been achieving before they hit the real record low. So they're still down below 600 and down below their average.
A 24% jump from last week's all-time low of 472. And for the trailing 4-week average, it's up 1% over 578. So that's the overall number. Let's get these quarter hours
Good
here.
Lord.
Jim, these were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. Bryan Danielson entrance. Josh Alexander versus Adam Page with picture-in-picture. 665,000 viewers.
Ooh, again, they're not getting big lead-ins. They're not getting big first quarters like they used to. And this is, remember when we used to do the math where we would take out the first quarter to get a more accurate audience measurement? Because that was the first quarter was always an aberration. It was abnormally large from the Big Bang Theory or whatever. This is kind of more in line with what we were getting a couple of years ago. But apparently they've killed the Big Bang's business too.
Well, it actually makes me wonder if there's a difference in the way things are being measured, because for a long time, the Big Bang Theory was going to 801. I feel like it ends a little closer to 8 here now than it used to. I don't know if that means anything.
I don't know, but when you think about it, they ain't making no more Big Bang Theories, so people have seen it 17 times now. At some point, it's not I Love Lucy. It ain't gonna last forever.
Well, Jim, quarter 2, 8:15, 8:30 p.m. The continuation of Josh Alexander versus Adam Page, and the post-match with the Page-Kyle Fletcher live promo, 636,000 viewers.
And they, again, they dropped 29,000. They used to drop 100 and something thousand, but they start with fewer. But they still lost in the start of the program. They lose almost 30,000 people when the world champion is in the ring. Yeah.
Jim, quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The MJF backstage promo, an ad break, the Young Bucks confrontation with Brandon Cutler and Jon Moxley at catering, and the start of Emi Sakura and Mercedes Moné versus Alex Windsor. For those complaining about the way I've been pronouncing it, I apologize. And Riho.
I just thought she was chapped from the wind sore.
601,000 viewers.
Well, and is anybody surprised? They put the Outlaw Girls in that early in the show, and they lose another 35,000 people. And I mean, at this point, they're going to have to level off because they won't be able to make their average, but it may very well get worse.
We go to quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The continuation of Sakura and Moné versus Windsor and Riho. The Ricochet and Gates of Agony backstage promo. An ad break. The Adam Copeland Christian Cage video. And the start, I guess, the FTR Stokely live angle. 573,000 viewers.
Jesus Christ. So there went another 28,000, and now they're 65, 80, 92,000 down from the start of again, they've got to go up here somewhere, but they won't make their average. So are they going to gain at the top of the hour?
Well, we go to the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. The Hurt Syndicate backstage angle, and Shelton Benjamin versus Ricochet with picture-in-picture, 618,000 viewers.
Well, there you go. The top of the hour, the Hurt Syndicate. You've got 20, 30, 45,000 people to say, okay, here's Shelton. Something's going to happen. Question is, did they keep him?
We go to quarter 6, 9:15 and 9:30 p.m. The continuation of Benjamin versus Ricochet, the post-match with the Hurt Syndicate and the Gates of Agony, an ad break, the Don Callis Kyle Fletcher backstage promo, And the start of Tony Storm versus Sky Blue, a picture-in-picture, 558,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay. Well, now we don't want to say that they just immediately all switched off, even though Shelton and Ricochet's match wasn't going on. But by the time they got to that outlaw girl shit, they just dropped them 60,000 people in 15 minutes. Jesus. All right. Did it pick up any for the titty stapling and the labia licking and all the things that went on?
I don't think that went on. 7:15, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The continuation of Storm versus Blue. The post-match with the Triangle of Madness. Jamie Hayter. Oh, and Jamie Hayter. Separate segment now. Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron backstage angle. And an ad break. 535,000 viewers.
Ooh, so the women's garbage match lost them more viewers in basically the time that they were out there than they'd lost in the entire show up until that point. And now they're 130,000 down from the top, and they started kind of low.
Well, we go now to 8:15. I remind you, a 6-minute overrun. 9:45 to 10 p.m. Bandito and the Ops versus the Death Riders and the Young Bucks. 513,000 viewers. 6-minute overrun post-match with Darby Allin and Daniel Garcia. 514,000.
So 1,000 people were standing by in case Impractical Jokers came on. Jeez, they still managed to lose 150,000 viewers from the top and only started with 665 to begin with.
They're lucky it's not lower. It's a bad show. It's just not a good show. Right now it isn't.
Well, hopefully next week's 12-man tag team match will bring the numbers back up. But I mean, we'll see, but I don't see them cracking 600 again consistently unless they make changes in this programming. What else are they going to do?